journey to the Abbey was uneventful. We heard rumors of how dangerous the forest can be, but it seems the light has protected us. My fellow travelers consist mostly of other Alliance recruits, some pilgrims and merchants, bringing supplies to the Abbey. As the road turned and I laid eyes on the stone building, I could sense this is a holy place. Much smaller than the cathedral where I spent my last years, but the simple walls radiated with power. We were greeted by Deputy Willem, a young officer of the Stormwind Guards. He's probably seen many recruits lately, given his bored demeanor, but, nevertheless, when I greeted him with a proper salute, he was kind enough to point me to the direction of the commanding officer of the Abbey, Marshal McBride. Now he was a much more imposing figure, with a broad shoulder, stern face, bald head, and a big mustache which was cut in the straightest line I've ever seen on a man's face. This was clearly a person who liked order. Though I soon learned that his stern face hid a warm person, as long as he received the respect his position deserved. Seeing some of my fellow recruits jumping around like children, or just standing, staring into the distance until they got so tired they had to sit down like their mind is away, I imagine the Marshal reserves his kinder side only to a selected few. Our quarters mirrored the simplicity we saw outside. Most of us had to share rooms with the others, like we used to do in the barracks, but I was given my own room. Not sure if my parents' hand was in this or not, but I didn't mind. I could enjoy some peace at the beginning of this new chapter of my life. There wasn't much time before the dinner bell rang. We gathered in the mess hall to eat together. The room had barely enough space for us, and the walls echoed with the loud talking. I learned that recruits usually don't stay for long. Most of them travel further, becoming adventurers, seeking glory. After the meal, I joined the other paladins and priests for the evening prayers, before retreating to my room. The next morning, we got our first orientation from the Marshal. He said there is an infestation of kobolds to the northwest of the Abbey, especially around the mine there. He warned us, a single kobold is not a major threat to any of us, but in large numbers, they could end us quickly. He said that thinning their numbers would be a great service to the people in Northshire Valley. He suggested that the task is easier if we work together in groups, but since this wasn't a command, he left it to us to decide. I made sure I properly prepared my items, then I set out to complete the task. I learned about kobolds during my studies, their characteristics, favorite weapons and tactics, but seeing them in person was completely different. I didn't see any evil in their eyes, which made me hesitate for a moment. The little rat almost cut my stomach, strengthening my resolve. I saw others going inside the mine, so I ventured there as well. One of the recruits, a mage, got surrounded by kobolds. She was badly injured. I called forth the power of the holy light inside me, healing her injuries, which of course got their attention, but they were no match for the two of us. She made a quick spell, which made my mind sharper, more focused. In return, I extended my aura to her, a sign of my devotion. She said she felt the warmth of the protective magic. We spent the next hours cleansing the mine. With the help of the others, we ran into occasionally. It was in the afternoon when we decided we have done what we could and went back to the Abbey. After we reported back to the Marshal, he gave me a letter. It was an invitation from Brother Samuel, who will train me in the ways of paladins. I cleaned myself and my equipment, made sure that I didn't miss any drop of blood or kobold hair. Who knows when will I need them again? As long as I keep everything in proper order around myself, I should be ready for anything in a minute. Brother Samuel welcomed me as a long-seen friend, even though we never actually met. He said he's heard about my progress in Stormwind, so he's not going to waste time with theory. I was glad to hear he's aware that I wasn't just a simple recruit, picked up by the army in the tavern or something, that I have been trained in the cathedral for years, before the clerics agreed that I was ready by the time I turned 18, to begin my journey in the world, in the service of the Alliance and its people. We discussed my day with the kobolds, and, to my surprise, which started more of a report, turned more into a friendly conversation. After a while I admitted that I felt shame for my hesitation. But he said, "Look, Benedric, that is actually a good sign. Compassion is one of the 3 virtues of the Holy Light. Eliminating your enemies shouldn't bring you joy. The satisfaction comes only from the knowledge that by doing so, you protect your people." That made me feel better, as I was getting ready to learn some practical skills from him. At dinner, I met the mage again. She waved at me with a bright smile and invited me to join her and her companions. She thanked me once more for my help, then launched into tales of their future plans, grand adventures in search of ancient magical artifacts and long-lost knowledge from across the world. The rogue seated beside her seemed far more interested in the financial value of such discoveries, which reminded me to ensure I kept my room locked at all times. The mage spoke with ease and confidence, clearly well-read and knowledgeable. The grace in her posture and her manner suggested she might be a lady of the court, though I haven't visited in years, I couldn't place her. In stark contrast, the other woman at the table, perhaps a warrior, had clearly never received any etiquette training. She ate like a savage, tearing into her food, dripping all sorts of liquid onto her tunic. I politely suggested that she might consider using a napkin, to which she responded by growling at me to mind my own business. It was rather difficult to maintain a conversation with the mage amid such chaos, but all things considered, I was glad I joined them for dinner. The next day, we were tasked with helping the local huntsman, Egan Peltskinner. He said the timber wolves in the area were causing trouble and could use some thinning out. The meat wasn't as good as beef or chicken, but it was still valuable, and he offered to craft something from their hides. It wasn't as much of a challenge as the kobolds the day before, but it gave me a chance to practice some of the new techniques I'd learned from Brother Samuel. The rest of the day passed uneventfully, until I heard rumors of bandits to the east. Word was they had taken over the local vineyard, forcing its owner, a young woman named Millie Osworth, to flee for her life. They called themselves the Defias Brotherhood. I'd heard whispers about them before. Craftsmen, stonemasons who helped rebuild Stormwind after the First War, but a payment dispute with the nobles had pushed them into rebellion. I still remember the riots. Soon enough, Deputy Willem gave the order. Those thieves needed to be dealt with. Since I was already familiar with many of the other recruits, it was easy to form a group and set out together. We crossed the river at the old bridge leading to the vineyard and saw them at once. Shady figures, faces obscured by crimson bandanas, eyes watching us with cold suspicion. I led the charge. We clashed amid the grapevines. Steel and spells flew. In the heat of battle, I struck down a bandit whose bandana slipped as he fell. He was a young man, younger than me even. His eyes were wide with terror as he gazed up at my hammer. That face could have been mine, or the mage's whom I'd saved just the day before. Am I truly allowed to judge who lives and who dies? The Holy Light only answers to those whose hearts are pure, and I could still feel its warmth in my hands, in my chest. That gave me the strength to press on. By the light's grace, I saw no more faces like his. The other bandits had cruel eyes, full of bloodlust. One group had cornered a wounded recruit and were torturing him when we arrived. We were too late. His wounds were beyond my ability to heal. I can only imagine what those animals might have done to Millie if she hadn't escaped. Our orders were to eliminate their local leader, a man named Garrick Petfoot. He was surrounded by thugs, but with teamwork we overwhelmed them. The warrior from my dinner company suggested we take his head as a proof. I found the idea revolting. I mean, where would we even carry it on the way back? But clearly, she had no such concerns. She simply hacked at Garrick's neck with a grim efficiency. The rest of us collected the bandanas. They were soaked in sweat and blood. I had to borrow a sack from someone just to carry mine. What we did that day felt right. But I can't help but think that boy's face, the one I struck down, is burned into my memory forever. After we returned, both Deputy Willem and Marshal McBride nodded with approval as they listened to our report. They told us we had done a great service for the local people. I saw Millie's face light up when she heard the news, a burden lifted from her shoulders, and, as I later heard, one of the clerics who'd been using her harvest to make wine was seen jumping and clapping with joy. Later that day, after I had cleaned up, I had another private talk with Brother Samuel. I shared my concerns about the bandit boy. He told me I had done what was necessary, though he admitted his outlook was more pragmatic. Something along the lines of, if you don't get them, they get you. We paladins are holy warriors, soldiers in the army of the light. Justice is on our side when we strike, but our hands are still full of blood. He said that if the weight ever felt too heavy on my soul, I should speak with the priests. They've studied the soul and mind far more deeply, and might have ways to soothe such burdens. I simply nodded. I didn't tell him I was already far too familiar with the priest's mind-healing techniques. That evening, I prayed for a long time. The next morning, the marshal himself knocked on my door. When he saw my neatly made bed, folded clothes, and carefully organized equipment, he gave me a firm nod of approval. He said he was impressed by my progress and offered to transfer me to Goldshire to take up the charge of protecting the surrounding Elven forest. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, leave a like and a comment. Thanks for watching, see you in the next episode.